Hello and welcome to this worksheet that covers the multiples and factors worksheet. Hello, welcome to this video, I should say, that covers the multiples and factors worksheet. So for number one, first find the first 7 multiples of 4. So remember that this is the value that we are doing for our times tables. Let me reduce the thickness a little bit. So that's our times tables and this is our number. So the first 7 multiples of 4. Really simply, we just do the 4 times table up to 4 times 7. So we have 4, whoopsie daisy. We have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and 28. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our answer to number 1 is just this one. There's the first 7 multiples of 4. The next one we've got is the first 6 multiples of 11. So we're doing the 11 times table and we're doing the first 6 values of that. So for our 11 times tables, number 2, we would do 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, and 66. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's our first 6 multiples of 11. For number 3, the first 4 multiples of 16, so we'll just clear some space here. So the first 4 multiples of 16 is just the 16 times table. So the 16 times table and the first 4 values. So it's going to be 16, 32, 48, and 64. Remember, if you're struggling, the 16 times table is not a very easy table, so if you do have a calculator, it's very easy in the calculator paper, but if you don't have a calculator, just do 16 plus 16 to get 32, plus another 16 to get 48, plus another 16 to get 64. The next one is question 4. Find the multiples of 7 between 20 and 50. So for this one, we have if we want to start from the beginning, 7 and 14, because we want to do the 7 times table, but 7 and 14 are not in between 20 and 50, but our next value will give us a value between 20 and 50, because the next value is 21. Then we have 28, 35, 42, 49, and then the value after this one is 56, so we don't want that value. So 56. So our answer is in purple. We'll remove out the ones that we don't need. So we don't need 56 and we don't need 7 and 14. So our answer is just 21, 28, 35, 42 and 49 because they are the 7 times tables between 20 and 50. And then the next question, question number 5, is a similar-ish type of question. This time we've got the multiples of 11 between 42 and 90. So if we start from the beginning, so 11, you don't have to start, if you already know that it starts from 44, then that's great. But we have 11, 22 and 33. They don't exist, but we do have the next value, which is 44. Then we've got 55, 66, 77, 88, and then our next value is 99, which is outside of our range because we only care about between 42 and 90. So our answer is we get rid of the 11, 22 and 33 and we get rid of the 99, and that gives us our answer for question number 5. Let's move on to the next questions now, which is the factor question. So the factor questions number 6, find the factors of 20. So to find the factors of 20, all we do is we start from 1 and we work our way through dividing 20 and seeing if we get an integer answer. So the first value is 20 divided by 1, which is 20. So therefore 1 and 20 are factors. Remember, it's if this value, as long as this is an integer, this value and this value are both factors of 20. Or in this case 20. So let's do number 2. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 2 and 10 are factors. We've got 20 divided by 3, which is equal to 6.66 recurring, so therefore 3 is not a factor. And then we have 20 divided by 4, which is equal to 5, so 4 and 5 are factors. However, we do have an issue. Well, sorry, we don't have an issue. We've now finished because our next one that we do will be 20 divided by 5, but we've already got 5 here as a result. So we already know what the answer will be. The answer will be 4. We've already proved that 4 and 5 are factors. And once we hit a repeat, we can stop. So our answer to this one is we just go through our numbers down here. So we say this is going to, the factors of 20 are 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20 as our result. Let's have a look at number 6. Number 6 is find the factors of 77. So to find the factors of 77, all we do is exactly the same. We'd say, well, 77 divided by 1 is equal to 77. So 1 and 77 are factors. If we do 77 divided by 2, that's 38.5, so 2 is not a factor. 77 divided by 3 is equal to 25.6 recurring, so 3 is not a result. 77 divided by 4, is equal to 19.25, so 4 is not a factor. 77 divided by 5 is 15.4, so 5 is not a factor. 77 divided by 6 is equal to 12.833 recurring, so 6 is not an answer. 77 divided by 7 is 11, so now we've got another factor, which is 7 and 11, so they are both factors. 77 divided by 8 is equal to 9.625, so 8 is not a factor. 77 divided by 9 is equal to 8.555, so 9 is not a factor. 77 divided by 10 is 7.7, so 10 is not a factor. And then we get a repeat, because we know already that 77 divided by 11 must equal 7, and 77 divided by 7 is 11. So we already know that 7 and 11 are factors. So we've hit our repeat, so it means we can stop. So let's go back to our answer. So to find the factors, well, we had 1, we had 7, we have 11, and we have 77 as our result. So the factors of 77 are 1, 7, 11, and 77. So that is the answer to question number 7. And then now we're going to move on to question number 8. So question number 8 is find the factors of 110. So in this case here, we'll put these out, gives us a little bit more room. Okay. So find the factors of 110. Hopefully you know what the first step will be. So the first step should be 110 divided by 1, which gives us 110. So we know that 1 and 110 are factors. 110 divided by 2 gives us 55. So we know that 2 and 55 are factors. 110 divided by 3 is equal to 36.66. So we know that 3 is not a factor. 110 divided by 4 is equal to 27.5. So we know that 4 is not a factor. 110 divided by 5 is equal to 22. So we know that 5 and 22 are factors. 110 divided by 6 is equal to 18.33. So we know that 6 is not a factor. 110 divided by 7 is equal to 15.71. So we know that 7 is not a factor. 110 divided by 8 is equal to 13.75. So we know 8 is not a factor. 110 divided by 9 is equal to 12.22. So we know 9 is not a factor. And 110 divided by 10 is equal to 11. So 11 is a factor and 10 is a factor. Oops, we will remove this row one here. And then the next value that we have will be 110 divided by 11, but we can see that we've already found that as a factor, so we can stop here. So then we just go back through and find our numbers. So we've got 10, 11, 5, 22, 2, 55, and 1, 110. So in our answers, it's going to be 1, 2, 5, 10, 11, 22, 55, and 110. Okay, number 9. Find the factors of 200 between 4 and 20. So this time, it only wants us to look at the factors that exist between 4 and 20. So this one again is using a particular range. So what this means is that we don't care about the initial factors, because we can do 200 divided by 1, which is going to be equal to 200. So we can say, well, 1 and 200 are factors. However, they fail in the next step because they're not between 4 and 20. So if they're not between 4 and 20, so they're not, they're lower than 4, and they are either, and well, 4 is lower than, 1 is lower than 4, and 200 is greater than 20. So therefore, we can ignore this one. And we could ignore 200 divided by 2 and 200 divided by 3. So actually what we care about is just the factors between 4 and 20. So let's go and start from 4. So we do 200 divided by 4, which is equal to 50. So we could say 4 and 50 are factors. 200 divided by 5 is equal to 40. So we can say that 5 and 40 are factors. 200 divided by 6 is equal to 33.33. So therefore, 6 is not a factor. 200 divided by 7 is equal to 28.57. So therefore, 7 is not a factor. 200 divided by 8 is equal to 25. So we know that 8 and 25 are factors. Then we've got 200 divided by 9, which is equal to 22.2 recurring. So 9 is not a factor. And then let me make some more space here. So we've got 200 divided by 10, which is going to be 20. So we know that 10 and 20 are factors. Then we have the next step, which is going to be 200 divided by 11, which is equal to 18.18. So 11 is not a factor. We will move across here, give some more room. So 200 divided by 12, which is equal to 16.67. So that is not a factor. 200 divided by 13 is equal to 15.38. So that is so therefore 13 is not a factor. 200 divided by 14 is 14.29. So 14 is not a factor. 200 divided by 15 is equal to 13.3 recurring. So we know that 15 is not a factor. And then 200 divided by 16 is equal to 12.5. So 16 is not a factor. 200 divided by 17. So we know that 11.76. 17 is not a factor. 200 divided by 18 is equal to 11.11. So we know 18 is not a factor. 200 divided by 19 is equal to 10.53. So we know 19 is not a factor. And then finally 200 divided by 20. We already know, because we've already worked out here, that that should equal 10. So 10 and 20 are factors. So this is our repeat factor. And therefore, we can say the following. Well, if we're looking between 4 and 20 as our results, hang on, my apologies. It's a little bit slow. Oops. there we go. So if we're looking at our results, we only want the factors between 4 and 20. So that means that when we look at our results, 4, 5, 8, 10, and 20 are our factors. So for number 9, our result is simply 4, 5, 8, 10, and 20. Now, there is a little bit of a shortcut here, is that you didn't need to do any values past this point. Because if you look here, 200 divided by 14 gives you 14.29. In the next value, 200 divided by 15 is 13.3 recurring. If this result is less than the actual answer, than the actual thing that you're dividing, then you can stop, because you already know that there's going to be no factors that are integers that are less than 15, because you look here, well, 200 divided by 15 is 13.3 recurring. Well, you didn't find a result for 12, you didn't find a result for 13, because that was 16.67 and 15.38 respectively, and 11 was 18.18. The next time you get a result is at 10. So for this one, you just didn't need to do it anyway, because you already know from the fact that you haven't found an integer after 10, between 10 and 14, you already know that it was impossible. So you didn't need to do these steps. And another point to note out is that you don't need to write down all your workings out necessarily. You don't need to prove every single number. You can just write the results straight down. I mean, it's supposed to be a quick. These are obviously longer questions than you would get in the exam. Okay, the last one is to do 486. So find the factors of 486 between in the actual one that you have though, it's between 1 and 7. So in the worksheet that you have, so 486 between 1 and 7. Okay, so for the first one we do is we do 486 divided by 1, which is equal to 486. So we know 1 and 486 are factors. The next one we do is 486 divided by 2. When it loads, 486 divided by 2, which is equal to 243. So 2 and 243 are factors. Our next step is going to be 486 divided by 3, which is equal to 162. So 3 and 162 are factors. 486 divided by 4, which is equal to 121.5. So 4 is not a factor. 486 divided by 5 is equal to 97.2. So 5 is not a factor. 486 divided by 6 is equal to 81. So 6 and 81 are factors. And 486 and over 7 is equal to 69.43. So therefore 7 is not a factor. And we can stop here because in your question it was between 1 and 7. So now we can go through and just pick out the factors that are between 1 and 7. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 6 as your results. So your answer to number 10 is 1, 2, 3, and 6. And that's it for this worksheet. If you do have any questions, please let me know.